Hello, my name is Dr. Lindsey Carter II. I'm running for the United States Congress in the 9th Congressional District here in this great state of North Carolina. I want to remind you, resistance to tyranny begins when citizens recognize the patterns of deposition repeating through history and vow to rise before too late. And essentially what happens when a democracy falls. Now I want to present this prophetic warning across the ages. One that was sounded by James Madison in 1785. James Madison said, if tyranny and oppression come to this land, it will be in the guise of fighting a foreign enemy. In his memorial and reminiscence, Madison warned that the greatest threats to freedom emerge not from abroad, but from domestic assertion of power, clothed in patriotic rhetoric. And that's what we've been experiencing here in the United States of America. Frederick Douglass, another reminder, 1852, stated, and I quote, "Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will." Even in the struggle to abolish slavery, Douglass taught us that the oppressed must organize lest the powerful re-enslave the conscience of the nation. And that is essentially what Trump's regime is doing. Then come along Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1967. In 1967, Dr. King said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." Dr. King sounded the alarm against a creeping age of fear, where laws would be twisted to uphold segregation and deny basic human dignity. And that dignity assertion has begun here in America. Alex de Tocqueville, 1835. Quote, "Democracy will endure until the day that the people discover they can vote themselves, largely from the public treasury." His insight into American individualism reminds us that the greatest democratic pearl is not outside of the gates, but within our own legislatures. How did we get here? Overthrow in slow motion. Since 2016, a series of coordinated bills are crafted in ALEC's boardrooms and championed by MAGA Republicans such as Congressman Richard Hudson, North Carolina 9th District, has systematically hollowed out our constitutional guardrails. Stop Act, vote restrictions. Let's start there. H.R. 1531, 2023 mandates proof of citizenship to vote, purged over 5 million registered voters in the battleground states. SB 90, Georgia, 2001 /Dropbox of 95% cut weekend voting disproportionately, impacting Black, Latino, and elderly citizens. Parent trigger and don't say gay laws. HB 1557, Florida, 2022. Sexuality or gender identity in grades K through 3. Weaponized in the classroom against the LGBTQ+ youth and their families. Pennsylvania, PA 232, Texas, 2023. Power to remove books in race, history, and LGBTQ+ topics gutting their academic freedom. Personhood and IVF bans. Alabama Supreme Court ruling February 16, 2025. Embryos defined as children exposed to IV doctors' homicide charges. State legislators swiftly introduced HB 301 criminalizing the destruction of a child at conception. Religious freedom carves out. Literally carves out. RFRA amendments allow business, hospitals, and schools to refuse service, contraception, gender-affirming care, even emergency treatment if contrary to religious beliefs. Judicial packing and shadow docket. I want you to hear this. The United States Supreme Court in 7-8 emergency orders on its shadow docket in 2024 ruling without full brief or argument have blocked challenges to every major MAGA initiative from school prayer laws to voter ID mandates. These bills weren't isolated outrages. Professor Carr emphasizes that they form legal scaffolding for a theocracy in our courts and have them covered. Now let's discuss Project 2025 and the Seven Mountains, a centuries-old design. Seven Mountain Mandate of 1975, introduced by Lauren Cunningham's blueprint, used Christians to seize religion, family, education, media, entertainment, business, and government. Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation. Transition plan staffs thousands of agencies with dominance, gut civil roots, and require executive orders, devotion in the White House by Donald Trump. This isn't a new conspiracy. It's the same dark current from King James to the Confederates, from Reconstruction to the religious right, now flowing into every branch of government. A contrast I would like to make here when my platform issues in which I espouse, while MAGA architects enact the legal coup, I believe that congressional platform on this congressional platform renewed the covenant. Restore wall of segregation is what they want. Federal Religious Neutrality Act repeals state RFRAs that privilege one faith, reinstate another as binding precedent. Defend voting rights. John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Automatic registration. National mail ballot. Standard ban partisan gerrymandering. Safeguarding reproductive and LGBTQ+ rights. Federal Reproductive Freedom Act guarantee IV contraception and gender-affirming care as a constitutional right under the Equal Protection and Due Process. Judicial independence and merit selection. Also, Merit Commission Amendment insulate federal state judges from political purges. Restore bipartisan selection panels. Transparent campaign finance. I am running heavily on that. Get rid of the dark money. Close dark money loopholes. Cap all. Contributions at $2,800. Empower public financing matching small dollar donations. Public education and curriculum integrity. This is my stance. Fully fund Title I schools, prohibit ideological vetting of textbooks, expand bilingual and civic programs. My platform renews Madison's vision of a government of laws, not of men. It stands between us and theocracy and monarchy. VA passionate call to arms. Fellow Americans, Black, white, Native, Latino, Asian, every heritage, this is our last clear moment before constitutional democracy is dismantled. We cannot wait for a single election or a judicial triumph. We must act now. Now is the time to act. We must unite local collisions cross-partisan guardians of the Republic in every single district defend each other's preferred candidates for free and fair elections is critical. We must flood the courts. Flood the courts. File amicus briefs, emergency motions against shadow docket orders, enlist state constitutions to counter federal overreach. I believe that we have to elect pro-democracy champions this election. Support candidates who pledge cards platform, regardless of party. Hold incumbents accountable at town halls and primaries. We must mobilize the Joshua generation, which is our youth. March canvas, we must bank, phone bank, we must use new methods of getting the vote out. We must vote with every tool that we have. Early voting, mail-in ballots, same-day registration, guardians at the polls, protect every vote from purge-driven schemes. Power concedes nothing. Douglas taught us this. We must demand everything our founders entrusted to us. An equal vote, bench religion, neutrality, and public education free from government control. Our destiny, we the people, the Constitution's promise is not provisional. Madison insisted, it lives in the hearts of a free people. Let us be that free people here in the 9th Congressional District. Let us fight in unity. Female, immigrant, native born, race, all race and faith, manufactured, all these different divisions. We must get rid of all that. We are and shall forever be the United States of America. We must rise now with righteous indignation, hopeful resolve, defend our republic or watch it vanish. This is our hour. May our voices, our votes, and our unbreakable unity have saved this American experiment from the dark design that has come to close its fruition. And this is why, my friends, we as Americans, we cannot gamble, not a day, not one day, with the outcome of the projected election for 2016. Because as things are going now, we can see Donald Trump has has sent the military, militarized even California. And if you think California is the only state in which he planned to do this, you're absolutely wrong. But you have to know and understand the distinction between Project 2025 and the 7 Mountain Mandate. The 7 Mountain Mandate that I mentioned earlier is an extension Project 2025 is an extension of the 7 Mountain Mandate. The 7 Mountain Mandate, it is to take control of the government, our education, and everything that you've seen in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, everything you've seen that's happened in our society as far as our education being torn apart, as far as individuals being cut drastically with the Medicaid and Medicare, the threats to Social Security and SSI, all the social net programs, there's a plan behind all of this. There's a plan why they have decided to start with so-called illegal immigrants. And initially, which we already know that was not true, Donald Trump said that he was going after MS-13 gang members. But that wasn't the truth. We're literally seeing babies separated at the borders, separated in the cities in America from their moms and their fathers. Babies screaming. Mom and dads have no recourse to help their child. This is the America we are looking at now. And it only will get worse. I stopped by today. I stopped by for a reason. And that reason is to warn America that we, regardless of your party affiliation, regardless of your skin color, regardless of your background, regardless of anything, ethnic, sexual gender preference, none of that should matter in this moment. In this moment, what should matter is that we are standing up as Americans, standing up for freedom, standing up for justice, and declaring that the billionaire oligarchy regime, headed by Donald J. Trump, will not overtake our government, will not overthrow our government. We remember January 6th, that was the beginning of what looks like the end. But I just have the notion and belief that this isn't the end, because I believe in you, the people. I believe that the people, regardless of your political persuasions or opinions, we all may differ on opinions, but I think you'll see that we need to support all pro-democratic candidates that believe in democracy, pro-democracy candidates. We must protect the Constitution at all costs. We must protect our republic at all costs. We must protect our people at all costs. And we certainly must protect our Constitution and democracy at all costs. We're in a pivotal time where if we sit back and do nothing now, we will regret this later. This is why I'm so very overjoyed, if you will. I'm so encouraged to see days like the John Lewis day that we just recently had, the days like No Kings days. I'm so grateful for Indivisible, Invisible. I'm just grateful to all of you, all the different civic groups that have risen up and have took a stand and said, no, we will not bow. We will not bow one knee to a king. This nation was founded on the principles of the Constitution for a reason. When those ones that fled to Great Britain, they fled there because they did not want another king. Donald Trump really don't want to be king. He will never be king. But you must understand that there's a bigger force behind all of this that we're dealing with. And that force is called Project 2025 and the 7 Mountain Mandate. This is why you had so many evangelical Christians, and I want to expose them today. You wonder why so many evangelical Christians supported Donald Trump. Well, it was to get the mandate forward and get it through. And this is why when they first came back into his second term, they started to push legislations at warp speed I've never seen in legislative history of this in this country. And they are going, when they do not get their way, you have 5 justices that sit in the United States Supreme Court that has obviously agreed with this 7 mountain mandate to purge America of its freedoms, going as far as to work in the late night hours when you're asleep and creating what we term as shadow dockets. What are shadow dockets? Those are orders that are passed down, generally about 1 page or 2, that are passed down by the United States Supreme Court. And in those documents, they really provide no reason as to why they are doing what they're doing. They just issue an order permitting certain things to happen. Donald Trump has received a host of these type of orders. This isn't normal. Generally, in our judicial system, the cases will go through the courts. They would have to go through hearings. They would go through preliminary hearings. They would go through all sorts of voir dire hearing as if it's going to trial. They would go through. It's a process. So then you have the courts, starting with the federal courts most generally, and speaking federally, starting with the federal district courts, and then working its way up to the appellate court, and from the appellate court to the United States Supreme Court, which grant very few writ of certiorari each year. But this court has turned justice on its head. If you cannot see that this court has been compromised, you are absolutely blind. If you cannot see that your congressman, and I do not say this because I am a Democrat, no, I say this because I'm an American. And I say this because as a professor and a man that have critical thinking skills, can see very clearly that our Congress has been infiltrated by this 7 mountain movement scheme issued under Project 2025. When asked during the 2024 election by Donald Trump, did he know anything about Project 2025? Donald Trump emphatically said, I know nothing about Project 2025. And therefore, Donald Trump, as we have seen, the same way that he said, and go back and research my words, and I'm quoting Donald Trump, the same way that he said on numerous occasions, I would never allow any legislation to come forward, or nor would I sign any legislation that would affect Social Security or Medicaid. What was the first thing put on the chopping block? And by the way, it was put on there from our great representative under reconciliation. Over $8 billion just came from his department alone in order to give those funds to the wealthy and take it from the marginalized poor and our middle class families. If this isn't a sham, if this isn't a cross, if this isn't diabolic enough for you, I don't know what ever will be. And I see, a lot of those ones like Richard Hudson, they're out trying to persuade the people. You're looking at it right, squarely in the eye. You can see what's happening right before your own eyes. But they would tell you that it's dark outside when the sun is shining. And they'll tell you that it's fair outdoors when it's actually raining. We must wake up our conscious minds now. We cannot act as sleep individuals. This is why they attack this so-called wokeness theory. But the wokeness that I speak of is that I'm a conscious-minded, thinking man that can think for myself, and if need be, have aids of others that can see more than I could see, so that I can make informed decisions. And so, with that being said, wokeness, don't take that as something derogatory. They call us woke. Absolutely. We are woke and not asleep. And we will answer. And we will answer very, very clear come 2016. When we vote every Republican, every single Republican out of office that crossed the American people and put them on a stake. And one of the things that really bothered me about this so-called big beautiful bill, and I don't know if they just thought the people were going to be just not thinking, not understanding what's happening, because someone, if you didn't know, if you didn't read the 900 pages, I read the entire 900 plus page bill, and I researched it. And one provision in there, it dictates that the most harmful policies, whereby we will start filling those policies, will not be implemented until 2027 and 2028. Well, why is that? That's being procured for this simple reason that in 2026, the Republicans want you to vote them back into office so they can finish us off. Only way that they can win and succeed at this point. We still have a clear avenue, and if you go to my webpage at www.lentcar, that's FOR, USCongress.com, you will see that I explain it very thoroughly of how we will be able to get rid of the mandate that has been projected and passed through Project 2025 legislation, the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. We will be able to turn things around, but we must have the majority. For once in our life, regardless you're Republican, Independent, Democrat, you are very conscious, you're very smart. The party that is trying to destroy us is the Republican Party. And I say that very clear. But the Democratic Party, with all of our flaws, we have the opportunity, and this is what I believe is America's last stand to save democracy so that we do not become a monarchy. We must vote for a majority. We must get a majority in the House and the Senate. Let me say that again. We must elect candidates that are pro-democracy. I'm not talking about candidates that just turned Democrat. I'm talking about lifelong candidates that really believe in the principles of freedom of speech and believe in the American dreams and Americans' liberty, justice for all. Because I think that we do have some chameleons out here that's running. under the guise of Democrats. I do think that we have some that are paid off to run as Democrats, and I want to warn you now. This is why I need you to do your research before you cast your vote. Your vote may be the deciding vote to the trajectory of if America survives or if it dies. I'm not going to gamble. Not that I have any prejudices against my Republican friends, fellow Americans, but they, I believe Maya Angelou said, when they show you who they are the first time, believe them. But they've shown you enough for you to be believing at this point. So therefore, you need to get some lifelong, staunch Democrats that's going to go into the White House, and they're going to vote. And here's the key. This is how we're going to save democracy. One of the first things, item of business, is that I believe that we must tackle, and we have the power of Congress to do so once we are in the majority, and even in the Senate majority, is to repeal and replace the big beautiful bill. So those monies that they relegated to go up to the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, the oligarchs, we have an opportunity to reverse that only this one time, to reverse that and replace that as a Congress and a Senate. But if we don't do it now, we are doomed. This is why I plead with you, support those candidates that are pro-democracy. Look at their platforms. Study the candidate. See if they are consistent. You can't be a flounder and, one day I'm Republican, the next day I'm Democrat, next day I'm, Joe Blow, if you will. But, we have to find candidates that has consistency on their voting records. And we must support them if we're going to save our country. And the reason why, and I don't mean to be too hard on some candidates, because some may have their hearts in the right place, but I don't think that we can risk not knowing if they're going to go into office and switch over, change up, because you put them there. And now, don't let it be said that I knew what to do. Regardless of your prejudice, you don't have to like the candidate. You don't have to, you don't have to believe in everything the candidate believes in. But if the candidate's heart is in the right place, then I think you should take a second look at that candidate and ensure that that candidate have enough. Because one thing about politics, one thing about running for office, is that in the Republican Party, they have billionaires who funnel dark money into their candidates' coffers. Campaigns like my campaign, we depend on grassroots support. And when you withhold your $5, your $10, your $15, your $30, $100, which is minimum, from donations to that campaign, you withholding life support from yourself. That could be your very detriment and downfall. So when the candidates put themselves out there, I just want to encourage you to really sit back and have a good, time to think, talk with your family, have some table talks about where we are, and be honest with yourself. I don't care if you were Republican, I don't care if you was independent, I don't care if you was Democrat. Let's just face the truth. America is in trouble. And the only savior that we're gonna have to get us out of this mess is us, the democracy itself, the voters. So I say to you in my closing, let's not act this go around as if we must prove something to someone or to a party or to a loyal group of people. Your lives depend on this. Your mother's, your father's lives, your children's lives depend on this election. Your mothers that are in convalescent and nursing homes. And tell you what the big beautiful bill does for that. A lot of them will be forced out of there unless you can pay out of pocket. And unfortunately, I like to talk the truth. Unfortunately, a lot of those individuals are going to end up in the state's hand. And because of the medical and the finances needed in order to get them the proper medical treatment is not going to be readily available, a lot of those individuals are going to die prematurely from things that could have been easily treated. Furthermore, when the state takes over and have to take care of hundreds of thousands of individuals who's been cast out of the nursing homes, and they're already strapped for money because the big beautiful bill is taking money from the states. Thank God that we have a governor like Governor Josh Stein here in North Carolina, who's fighting tooth and nail to put things in place in order to keep us from feeling the heaviest brunt of all of this. But what a lot of people don't understand is the states that are affected more are the ones that have Republican governors. They receive the most public assistance. They have the most safety nets. Do your research. And quite to the contrary of popular belief, it's not people of color that's receiving the most of those benefits. We're at the bottom of the barrel on the reception end of even safety net programs. So I say to my white brothers and my white sisters, please take these things into account, because you're affected just like we're affected. When we go down, you go down. When we fall, you will fall. This has always been the art of war with oligarchs, billionaires, and out of touch legislators like Richard Hudson. If you watch Richard Hudson and listen to him talk about Donald Trump, he worshiped the ground the man walked on. But I thank God, even as a pastor, that I put the principles of the Word of God first. God said, I have no other God before me, and therefore I would never bow to Donald Trump. No politician, no political party, but I will vote my conscience. My conscience tells me that Jesus says, when I was hungry, you fed me not. When I was in prison, you visited me not. When I was naked, you clothed me not. This is what the Republicans has decreed in the one big beautiful bill that's going to turn out to be very ugly for the American people. Babies going to bed hungry. Schools strapped for monies in order to be able to teach the students to children, teachers leaving the profession. It is projected here in North Carolina that by next year, 2026, that over 1,000 teachers, we will lose over 1,000 teachers. What did that mean? It means we will have larger classrooms, more violence in the schools, and less protection from staff because of the shortages. And then for Donald Trump's administration to refuse to even send the monies that was already allocated by Congress under appropriation bills to the state of North Carolina, that's another argument in itself. We're in trouble. But banding together, standing arm in arm, standing in unity, we can defeat this dark hour and come to the morning light. I want to say, history is dependent on you. When your grandbaby look at you in your eye years later and they ask you, how did you vote? What did you do? Will you be able to tell them that I stood on the right side of history and I voted my conscience? I voted for what was morally right, not what was politically expedient. This is the legacy I want to leave. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back again on tomorrow. And we'll have another discussion. Because I think these discussions are extremely critical. The people need to be educated on what's happening behind the scenes. And there's more going on than you can imagine. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Until the next time, this is Professor Dr. Lent C. Card II for United States Congress. I am asking you to visit my campaign website, and I'm asking you to check out all of the issue platforms. We have one I'm going to be discussing tomorrow about human rights being a health care being a human rights issue, which every American should not be without health care. That is a right, and to be the wealthiest nation in the world, and to be running behind the other nations that are smaller and has less finances and fortunes than we do, and we don't have adequate health care, something is wrong. So we have a bill already ready to go to introduce once you elect Lent C. Carr II for Congress. We have bills that we've already drafted, ready to go with our boots on the ground. We are not just starting. We started 6 years ago because we saw the trajectory with the gerrymandering and other things that was going on. So we have been preparing for this. So we're ready. I just want to know, are you ready? Are you ready to support a candidate that is all in for the people? We, the people of the United States of America. Visit my website at www.lentcar4uscongress.com. Let me say that again. That is www.lentcar4, that's F-O-R, uscongress.com. Check out our issue platform. We have other news articles that you can read there, and you'll see the way that we attack these situations. We don't just do like some candidates only talk about the problem. We identify the problems, but our main objective is finding solutions. And as a former risk management manager, I have learned to do that and generate policy. And as a policy writer and researcher, we was able to go ahead years ago and start preparing for this. So I would ask you to read that, and you will see some things that you probably never thought that could be possible. But we know the laws and how they should be proclamated and codified into our American jurisprudence. But listen, thank you again. Thank you for tuning in, and until the next time, you guys have a great day, and may God bless you all, and may God bless America, and may God bless the 9th Congressional District of the United States of America. Until the next time, God bless you. Don't forget to donate when you go to the page. Everything you donate, it fuels what we do. Thank you again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.